But yeah, with the LSU football schedule, I don't think it's crazy to see them starting 3-0. And then they have a stretch where, because their first 3 games I think are winnable. Florida State, Grambling, and then they play Mississippi State. But then what's telling is Arkansas, Ole Miss, back-to-back after those first 3 games. I think those are interesting games because those are 2 games where you kind of get the feel like they might drop one of those 2 games. They won both of those last year, but they easily could have lost one of those, or if not both. And Ole Miss is a really tough team. Arkansas just seems to thrive when they play LSU and in Alabama, even though they have not really had the upper hand against LSU and Alabama over the years. It seems like there's some games where it's just like last year, it's just like 13-10. One year with Alabama, it's 10-7. Arkansas just likes to make it ugly. So, yeah, I think you got to believe that LSU has a really good shot of being 7-1 heading to the Alabama game. I think if you're an LSU fan and someone were to tell you right now they're going to be 7-1 going to the Alabama game, obviously you would love to be 8-0 going to the Alabama game. That's what every fan wants, to be 8-0 in their first 8 games. But with the grind of the SEC and how tough the SEC is year in and year out, and the likelihood that through 8 games you're going to drop a game, if someone said they were going to start 7-1, I feel like you would take that as an LSU fan. But LSU, the SEC fans set the bar so high that I think they would just be like, nah, we're 8-0. But 7-1 going to the Alabama game, you win that game once again. And, that loss, if you beat Alabama and go to 8-1, that loss is just like, who cares? It's meaningless, because then you win out, you're in the playoff. You win out, you're SEC champions, you're in the playoff. Obviously, it's easier said than done, but a 1-loss SEC team is getting in the playoffs. So LSU. And then the momentum from that Alabama win, they for sure should beat Florida and Georgia State, the remaining 2 opponents. So I think if you're LSU, you want to, 7-1, at least 7-1 going into Alabama, and then we got 2 winnable games. I think if you break down the schedule in an easy way to break down the schedule, optimistic way of looking at it, can we go 7-1, at least 7-1 going into Alabama, beat Alabama, and then 2 winnable games. I think that's an interesting way to break down the schedule. Obviously, Brian Kelly, he's a guy that, like most coaches, 1 game at a time in the Florida State, and like he said, it's gonna be a challenge week 1 going against Florida State. And they win that game, and that should really bolster the momentum. And I think they got a lot of guys, like Emory Jones said, his goal is to win a national title. I think LSU has a lot of guys where a win over Florida State would just, the confidence would go through the roof for LSU. So to me, that game will be telling. Does that propel them to really roll? And so, yeah, we'll see with that. But yeah, Ole Miss, even Auburn, they do have and then they have a stretch, 3-game stretch that are very winnable too. Missouri, Auburn, Army. So you got to believe, like if someone told me that LSU lost one of those 3 games and still won the SEC title, I would have a hard time believing it. You got to believe that if they're going to do something special this year, that's a 3-0 stretch. Auburn, maybe Auburn's improved. Army, even if Army is a decent team this year, LSU has better talent. And then Missouri may be a competitive team this year, but LSU has better talent. So those are I guess the point I'm trying to make is those are 3 games where not only should you be favored, should you expect to win, but you have more talent and you have more difference makers than all 3 of those teams. Auburn, some years it was kind of a toss-up. You remember 2019, Auburn was actually the one team that played LSU closer, but that's when Auburn had a lot more NFL players. Derek Brown, Igbenogany, Seth Davis. Auburn had actually true difference maker, and they had size up front, especially on the defensive line. So yeah, hopefully you get a nice 3-0 stretch there. But yeah, I'm excited for LSU. I think it's gonna be a fun schedule. The SEC schedule is always fun. Is Florida a close game this year? I talked about Florida on my other channel. I think Florida is going to be improved. Billy Napier Florida should be hungry this year to improve on the season they had last year. They wanted to win more games especially when you have a superstar quarterback. But Florida has kind of that weird feel like maybe they're going to be better. Sometimes you lose a superstar, and the immediate reaction is we're immediately going to be worse. But that's not always the case. Each team is different. Each season is different. The way a team gels is always different. LSU, even though they do return quite a bit of players, this team is different than the 2022 season. And that's what I think with Michigan football, too. Even though Michigan was 12-0 last year and Michigan's probably better, it's not always a given that they're going to be 12-0 again. Same with LSU. There's no guarantee they're going to be at least 10-4, even though you could argue that this team is better than last year's LSU team. If someone said LSU goes 8-4 this year, I think that would be a bit of a surprise. But would that be shocking? I don't know if I'd say shocking. I think it'd be surprising. I think things happen. I guess I don't know. To me, LSU should be better than last year. But yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of made that point. Yeah, things vary by year. Thanks for tuning in to Bayou Bengals football. Make sure to stay tuned. This has got the best LSU football talk right here. We talk LSU football daily. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, peace.